In recent days, my family has been through a very difficult period. I hope that we will begin to make sense of our ordeal and return to a normal life. Without reservation, I apologise for the hurt and the concern caused by these events. On behalf of our family, I express our deep gratitude to Victoria and New South Wales Police. More than anything, my family and I, we need time to recover and receive appropriate assistance. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hi, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Nearly Christmas. So, in this episode, I'm going to be revisiting a subject I touched on months ago. Families. Family behaviour. So, what you'll hear in this episode is some examples of extraordinary family events. Why this subject? Why have I picked this? Well, it's Christmas. And it's a time for family. Whether you love, hate, put up with, adore or avoid your family all year round, Christmas forces you to spend time with your family, and for some that's a joy, others it's a nightmare. So I thought, okay, let's make this a family theme. Before I get there, I'm just going to do one shout out. I'm not going to do a big long list. The shout out goes to Senga Robertson for being just an incredible person, for being an incredible extra, a big supporter of the podcast, a wonderful and very, very funny lady. Your support, Senga, since the podcast started has been amazing and I'm so grateful for it. And if you're in the Facebook group, you'll know who Senga is. So, yeah, thank you. Are you ready for a story which is baffling, which caused the media in Australia to stop in its tracks and report on every update? Are you ready? Okay, let's go. The Trump family. Who are they? Well, they are an Australian family made up of 5 members. We have Dad, Mark, Mother, Jacoba, and their 3 adult children. Rihanna, who's the eldest, 29. The middle child is a boy named Mitchell, age 25. And the youngest is Ella, 22. Don't worry so much about remembering their names and the ages or anything at the moment. I'll remind you of this as we go through each member of the Trump family and how they play their part in this crazy story. So they live in Sylvan, which is in Melbourne, Australia. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Sylvan, yeah. They had established a really successful red currant farm and earth moving business at their property. So they have this huge, big, expansive farm. So they'd lived there for many, many years since the kids were young. And the kids had grown up all working together on the farm. It was a real family affair. It was a real, we're all in this together. We're all in the red currant farm together. Okay, so they live on this big stretch of land. So at the time when the story that I'm going to tell you happens to the Trump family, Mark and Jacoba are 51 and 53, respectively. The Trump family were, by all accounts, a normal, hard-working household and close-knit. They did everything together. They were a family who were also friends as well as being family. Remember that in what I'm going to tell you, that they were so close-knit. Let's go to Monday, 29th of August 2016. What happened on that day? The Trump family, all 5 members, left their farm early in the hours of that Monday morning. Why? Where were they going? Later that day, a few different family members were trying to get hold of Mark and trying to get hold of Jacoba. They were calling the farm. No answer. They go and they visit the farm and no one's there. Eventually later that day, a family member places a call to Australian police to report that they're concerned that the family have just vanished. They've gone. So when the police check the Tromp farm, they find the following. Each family member's passport, all family cell phones and electronic devices, the family credit cards, each person's individual cash cards. They find money. Right, so what's going on here? So they've disappeared altogether, but they've left behind all of their devices and all of their passports and all of their access to cash. Okay? Police immediately deal with this as a family who have fled. But what have they fled? Or who? Why leave all of that stuff behind? If you're going somewhere, surely you want access to maps or to information on your phone. Well, apparently not. That is, of course, unless you don't want to be found, unless you don't want to be traced. Police begin searching the surrounding area for clues, and quite quickly they turn up a cell phone. A phone belonging to Mitchell Tromp. Now he's the middle child. He's 25 years old. So they find his phone, and it's lying by the side of the road, about maybe 30 kilometres from the family farm. Police said it looked as if it had just been tossed from a moving vehicle. It was just thrown with such abandon. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. It had been thrown from the Tromp family car. Being the only one who broke the rules and brought a device with him, Mitchell was made by the rest of the family to throw his phone from the car window when they discovered that he had it. Why? Okay, the plot is thickening. So the family had driven to Bathurst, 800 kilometres from their home. They hadn't stopped, they just kept on driving. It was there at 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning, nearly 24 hours after they had left the farm, that Mitchell, he leaves the family at this point. He got out of the car and he declares he's done. He's going home. So this leaves 4 of the Tromp family still travelling. So we've got Mum, Dad, and the 2 daughters, Rihanna and Ella. So Rihanna, the eldest child, she's 29. Her and Ella are the next to break away from the family. A few hours after their brother had walked away, they did the exact same. Now they wanted to get home, but with no money, how were they going to do it? Well, they stole a car. Yes, indeed, that's what they did. They stole themselves a car. The 2 sisters, they drove south to the town of Goulburn. And when they got there, they went into a police station and they reported their parents as missing. So it's weird, right? They were just with their parents hours before. They voluntarily left their parents, stole a car, drove to a police station and said, our parents are missing. So it's at this point the story hits the media, and of course being so bizarre and so confusing. The press pick up on the story and it quickly becomes headline news, and it is the top story on all news bulletins. There are headlines like, "Where are the Tromps? Tromp family madness. Family goes missing. Foul play suspected." So police are stationed at the Tromp farm, and it's while they're stationed there that Mitchell, the son, he returns home. Now he's the first Tromp family member to be located and questioned. When they ask him about the phone at the side of the road, he says his parents made him throw it from the car because they feared they were being tracked. By who? By what? Who knows? He told the police that he had only ever gone along on the journey to ensure his family would be safe, but that his parents had increasingly become delusional and hard to tolerate. Okay, so police have got Mitchell, but there's still 4 Tromps out there to be accounted for. So let's deal with Rihanna and Ella first, the 2 daughters. So Ella, who's 22, she says to her older sister that she's worried about the horses back at the farm, that she wants to get back and she wants to feed them. So she leaves her sister. Now she takes the car that they stole together back home, leaving Rihanna to go wherever she's going to go, but have to figure that out herself without a vehicle. So Ella, she gets in the car and she heads back to the farm. The following day, after a really long journey, she gets back. So now Mitchell and Ella are back at home, and of course the police have just got more questions. So she tells them everything she knows. She says, "We left our parents, we reported them missing, and I've also left my sister somewhere else." So what of Rihanna? The next turn of events I think is really disturbing. The driver of a utility vehicle, and if you don't know what one of those looks like, sort of like a small truck, really. It's like a sort of small truck, and it's got like a frame, usually with sort of something that covers the back of it. I think you use them for just like moving things place to place. So the driver of this vehicle, he's pulled into a petrol station to get some petrol, and he's driven about a mile down the road, and he starts to think, something's odd in the back of the vehicle. So he pulls over at the side of the road, gets out, and he lifts up the cover, and he discovers Rihanna Tromp is underneath the cover, and she's in an almost catatonic state. She's terrified. She can't remember her own name. She doesn't know where she is. So he phones police, and he's like, I just stopped to get petrol. I've driven a mile down the road, and this girl is in the back of my vehicle, and she absolutely doesn't even know her own name. She can barely speak, don't even know what the hell's going on. So police arrive, and Rihanna's taken away to the nearest psychiatric facility. So now we've got the 3 Tromp children accounted for. Okay, we know where they are. What of Mum and Dad? Where are Mark and Jacoba Tromp? Imagine, if you will, this is how it's playing out in the news. Every day there is a new twist. With every new family member that gets found, the story just is growing and becoming bigger and bigger. There's headlines like, "Tromp daughter found and sent to psychiatric hospital. Mother and father of missing family cannot be found. Tromp kids fear for their mother and father. Mark and Jacoba Tromp are having a manic episode." The entire family had left on the Monday morning, and on the late Thursday afternoon, Jacoba Tromp was discovered wandering down a street. 13 100 kilometres from her home in a really agitated state. Police, upon examination, placed her under psychiatric watch. So this leaves one. This leaves Mark Tromp. And the media is losing its mind by this point. Where is he? So by this point, the Tromps' faces are all over everywhere. Everyone knows what they look like. 6 days after this whole entire thing has begun, Mark Tromp is found wandering the streets near Wangaratta Airport, miles and miles from his home. So because their faces are everywhere, before police can actually get to Mark, there have been lots of sightings of him. People are phoning the police and saying that they've seen him. So a woman reports seeing him running away from the family vehicle in Wangaratta. A young couple who were out playing Pokemon Go. Remember Pokemon Go? Ridiculous. Who were out playing Pokemon Go say that they saw him and that he then stalked them for hours. There's never any more information on that. Nothing more is ever said about he stalked them for hours. Anyway, so his wife is in psychiatric care. His eldest daughter is in psychiatric care, and his 2 other kids are at home. So he's looked at by a doctor. He's talked to by police. They ask him why is he near an airport? Where does he think he's going to go without a passport and credit cards and access to money? How did he imagine he was going to get anywhere? They don't really get any answers from Mark Tromp. And so what they do is they release him into the care of his brother, who's a police officer. He later releases a statement, Mark, and he apologises for the hurt and the concern caused by the events. He pays his respects to the community resources that devoted their hours of time and their energy into finding the family. The man investigating this case says, in 30 years, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. So what about now? Well, the Tromp family are all back under one roof, living happily on the farm. But here's the question. What the hell happened here? What led to this bizarre experience? So one of the ideas, one of the thoughts is something called folie à deux, which is the madness of two. And it's a shared psychotic disorder that can be experienced by two people who are close, who it often happens in partners, it often happens in brothers and sisters, it often happens if you're in close contact with someone for a long period of time. It's almost a shared madness. So one of the ideas is that possibly Mark and Jacoba were sharing some sort of manic episode, and that's what led to the family fleeing. So remember, I did say to you, they were a very, very close family. They were actually they're more like a group of friends than they are a family. So possibly there's some mental health issues in that family, and what's happened is it's just being shared by everyone, and everyone's caught up in the madness that's within that family. There are, of course, as there's always going to be, other theories, and I'll give you a rundown of some of the weirder theories out there. Number 1, contaminated water on the farm. Had the family been drinking water that was filled with toxins? Contaminated water can make people do completely crazy things, and yes, some people really believe this theory. But police, they quickly shut this theory down. And again, I've said this before, I love Australians because they just shoot from the hip. They just say what they want to say. And so the police officer, Officer Knight, who was at the Tromp family farm interviewing the family, heard the contaminated water theory and said, well, I sat in their house the other night and drank a cup of tea. You don't see me having delusional thoughts, do you? Love that. So that was ruled out. Second theory was possibly pesticides and exposure to harmful crop substances on the farm. Again, it's similar to the water one, but it doesn't really hold up because all of the neighbouring farms, they all use the same stuff and none of them were affected. Number 3 is interesting. A scam. A money-making scam. Were they carrying this out in the hope of being noticed, being picked up by the media, and possibly would that lead towards a lucrative deal for the family? You know, they could make a fortune selling their story, going on TV. There could be a book. There could be millions. Do you know what I mean? They could make money. I don't know why. I considered that one. I just don't really believe that one. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe if you're listening, you're thinking, actually, that's perfectly plausible. And yeah, just for me, I don't know. I'm just not convinced by that one. And finally, number 4 is, were they trying to escape debt? Is it possible the Tromps had possibly owed money to someone they were trying to run away from? And I guess this comes from Mitchell's comment about having been forced to throw the phone out of the car in case they were being tracked. Okay, when all is said and done, what do you think? What do you actually think this was? I've considered all the options, and I do think this was some sort of a manic episode. I think the fact that Jacoba and Rihanna had to receive psychiatric treatment and that the entire family behaviour was just so strange says to me, I think there was an episode, and that episode could be well and truly finished and done and over, and it's just something that happened to that family in that moment, and that's not unheard of. This happens. Yeah, that's my kind of feeling on it, that's what I think happened. Okay, to end the story, I'll just give you Mark Tromp's words again that he spoke to the press when it was all over. In recent days, my family has been through a difficult period. We will soon be reunited together, and I hope that we will begin to make sense of our ordeal and return to a normal life. I am conscious of the burden these events have placed on our extended family, friends, and the community resources devoted to our aid. Without reservation, I apologise for the hurt and the concern caused by these events. More than anything, my family and I need time to recover and receive appropriate assistance, including mental health services. To end this, we request the media organisations respect our request for privacy. And so ends the Tromp family story. Okay, family story 2. The Cowden family. The Cowden family is made up of Richard Cowden, 28, his wife Belinda, 22, their 5-year-old son David, and their 5-month-old daughter Melissa. They were a family who lived a peaceful life in Oregon. During a weekend in 1974, the family went for a camping trip to the Rogue River National Forest campground in the mountains of Oregon near the border of California. So just a lovely little camping trip for the 4 of them. A short one. So they planned to go for a couple of nights camping, and then they were going to go and stay with Belinda's mother, who lived not too far away. So far, so good. They arrive on the Friday. They stay the Friday night. The Saturday night, And on the Sunday morning, Richard is seen in a store nearby buying milk. And this is the last time that anyone would ever see any member of the Cowden family again. As I said, they were planning to go after the camping trip to stay with Belinda's mother, and they didn't arrive. So she waits, and she waits. Now, remembering this is 1974, she can't be on an iPhone, using WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger to track them down. She just has to wait. So after a few hours, and with a feeling of rising concern, she goes to the campsite to see what's going on. When she gets there, the campsite is completely undisturbed. There's not a thing out of place. The only odd thing is that there's not a single member of the family there. So Belinda's purse is lying out on a table. The milk that Richard had gone to the shop and bought is on that same table. The family's car is parked nearby. So where in the hell are the Cowden family? That question wouldn't be answered for almost a full year. So Belinda's mother, she's pacing up and down the campsite. And she waits another hour, and then she decides to call police. Police remarked that when they got to the campsite, it was spooky. It was eerie that nothing was out of place. Nothing was disturbed. The milk on the table, all of the family belongings, everything was there. Everything was in place. The only thing they couldn't find were the family swimsuits. So, they assume possibly they had gone for a casual swim as a family. Even the family's dog was missing. But, fear not, dog lovers. The family dog was found unharmed about 5 miles away from the camp, which is great. But it still doesn't explain their disappearance. And of course, you can imagine the search was huge. It involved hundreds of police and public searching for the Cowdens. Theories put forward were this: the family had gone swimming and they had all drowned. But no bodies ever washed up in the water nearby. A second theory was that possibly they had staged this. They had run off because of financial trouble or debts. But no, they had no debts. The third theory, this was a robbery, and that they had been kidnapped as part of that robbery. Well, again, no, because nothing was taken. Not a thing. No money. No jewellery. The car wasn't stolen, so police, they just ruled that out and said, no, this can't have been a robbery. The usual kind of gubbins happened where people started saying that they had seen the family in a shopping centre in California. Of course, police investigated. Turns out it wasn't them. A couple in Oregon called police to say a new family have moved in next door, and they're sure that it's the Cowdens working under new identities. Turned out, nonsense. Psychics got involved, and they offered tips all over the place, but nothing came of any of that. After a year of this strange disappearance, 2 men were hunting near the campsite when they discovered what police had missed. They found human remains 7 miles from where the family had camped. At the scene, pathologists found 4 decomposing bodies, and they were the bodies of Richard, Belinda, David, and Melissa Cowden. 3 of the bodies had been placed into a cave and covered with rocks, which made them difficult to find. Frustratingly, police had actually searched the area right next to the cave, but they'd never looked into the cave where they would have found those bodies. There was evidence of gunshot wounds and blunt force trauma to the skull of the 3 bodies in the cave. But the body of Father Richard wasn't with the rest of the family. After another search, his body was discovered a considerable distance from the cave where the other 3 members were. His body was so badly decomposed that it could never be determined what the cause of death was. Suspicion immediately fell on Richard. It was thought perhaps he had murdered his family and then killed himself. But no gun was ever found in that area. It was then believed they'd met with some sort of foul play. One of the scenarios put forward by Mark Kazar of the Oregon State Police was that they had been abducted at gunpoint after they had gone to swim in the creek, and that they'd been driven some distance away, forced up a hill, and then shot execution style. Although no one has any idea of who did this or why. Remember, there was no robbery here. The case, to this day, nearly, what would that be? 44 years later, this case remains active, and it's just as mysterious as it was the day that it happened. So what happened to the Cowden family? Nobody knows, and I don't think we ever will. And so ends the story of the Cowden family. Okay, the final story. It's not all doom and gloom, because it's Christmas and there has to be hope and light in the world. And I don't always like to leave an episode on a downer. I like to leave you with something to warm your heart, and I think this story will do just that. This is still family related, but with a slight twist. It's a story of how a group of people helped save a family when they really needed it. Okay, so we're in Panama City Beach in Florida in July of this year. A family have decided to have a day at the beach. So 4 members of the Ursray family are at the beach that day. So we have Roberta, who is the mother. We have her 2 sons, who are aged 8 and 11. And Roberta's mother is with her. So we have grandmother, mother, and the 2 boys. So the mother tells her young sons, who are 8 and 11, that they're allowed to go out into the sea with their boogie boards, but they're not to go out too far. So, being 8 and 11 and excited by the water, they head off into the ocean. A few minutes later, Roberta's scanning the water from the shore. She's looking, trying to find her sons, and she sees the most horrific thing that I can imagine a parent seeing. Her 2 sons have been caught by a current, and they're being dragged out further and further into the water. Both of her sons are screaming and crying for help. Roberta and her mother, they run into the water to try and get towards the boys, but they can't battle the current. It's too strong, and they themselves end up also caught in this same situation. So now all 4 members of the family are in serious trouble in the water. They're all fighting for their lives. So panic breaks out on the beach. At first, people completely misunderstand. They think a shark is in the water. Parents start screaming for their kids to get out the water. There's just mass panic. So the beach police, they arrive quickly, and the rescue team, they try and get out to the family, but they can't reach them. By this point, there's 5 people who've witnessed this from the beach. They see what's happening, and they've swum out to try and get the family. But in that attempt, they're now stuck. So we now have a total of 9 people, all caught by the same current, all fighting the same water, but they're all losing battle. On the beach, the police are trying their best to organise a boat to come and rescue them, but that's going to take time. This is where the public, on that beach, they decide they're going to take matters into their own hands, and what they do is just incredible. Acting quickly, the strangers on the beach, they begin to form a human chain. They're shouting at the 9 caught in the current to try and hold hands. They're encouraging the 9 of them to try their best to get to each other and just hold on. So to start with, 20 people form the human chain. It starts on the beach, and person by person, it works its way out into the water. Then, another 30 people join the chain. So the chain is getting longer. Eventually, 80 people, incredible, 80 people form a huge chain which reaches right from the beach, right out. And the furthest person at the end of that chain, a strong swimmer, he manages to get the hand of Roberta, and she's holding the hand of one of her sons, and with the weight of 80 bodies, the 9 people are all pulled back to safety, brought back to the beach. The 2 boys are fine, Roberta and her mother are fine, and the 5 caught in the waves, they were all okay. A huge celebration breaks out on the beach, and when the media arrive to report on it, Roberta says to camera, "As a mother, I am expected to protect my children, but today I needed help, and that help came in the form of strangers. I will forever be grateful to those people who saved my family today." And so ends that story. Isn't that just beautiful? Isn't it just lovely? Never underestimate human kindness or the power of people. Okay, that's it from me. Have a fantastic Christmas. Enjoy it. You deserve it. You do. You really do. And as always, if you know a great story, an extraordinary story, get in touch. Join the Facebook group. I promise you, the extras in the group are the craziest, funniest, and most generous people you'll ever know online. So, get involved. There's always some form of shenanigans going on. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you think. It's really worth joining the Facebook group. So it's Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Okay. Thanks for listening. Okay? Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face Let's get it on. Let's do it. Let's get it over.